Are you recording?
Yes, I'm recording. That's going in the video now.
No. You don't have to make me look dumb, just weird. Alright, so this is Teresa from Your Mama's Book Reviews. So, I have a little disclaimer here. Sometimes my legs like to jiggle. I've been doing it since I was a child. My dad did it before me. We have jiggle leg syndrome. So if you see me doing this, it's my legs. I can't control it. I don't even know I'm doing it half the time. And then afterwards, Bella's like, you were jiggling again. It's like, well, I'm sorry. I have no control over whether or not I jiggle. I have a little bit of issues, okay? Issues. Anyway, I have a couple books that I finished reading and one DNF. Bella and I went shopping at some free little libraries, which we didn't record because we didn't know how it was going to go. But I picked up a book and I thought it looked really good and it was kind of dumb. And it's called Shadow House by Dan Pawlowski. And so I tried reading it. Now, first of all, it's not a very comfortable read because it's really loud. You hear that? I was trying to read it last night with the kids in the room, and I had to turn the pages very quietly. And as far as I could tell, it's about a group of kids, and they all get invited to this house for different reasons. And like one girl sees this ghosty thing in the mirror, and another kid is like a musical genius, and which reminds me of a good friend of Bella's, a musical genius. Yeah, you should be watching this, Pickles. Anyway. So, I didn't like it just because it was written for kids, which I'm not entirely against, but I felt like there was like no character development at all. It goes right into these kids and why they're doing different things and why they all get invited to this house, and I just don't really care to finish it because it wasn't well written. By the way, it's also a pet peeve of mine. I don't know if this bothers anybody else, but it's a pet peeve of mine when grown men try to write teenage girls. It's like, you do not know all the intricacies of teenage girls. Trust me, whatever you think you know, you actually don't know. Teenage girls are very complex. So I was sent this book for free. It's called Never by Jessa Hastings, and I decided I would read it. And it is a very lovely book, as you can tell. And inside there is this very pretty picture of Neverland. And in it you follow this girl, her name, Daphne. Daphne is grown up and she is, I believe, Wendy's grandchild. And throughout the generations, Peter Pan has come and taken the teenage girls when they are of a certain age to Neverland, where he causes havoc. And then Captain Hook has a son who is named... Sorry. Jameson Hook. So anyway, Daphne is a little bit older when she gets taken. In fact, they're starting to think that something happened to Peter, and her mother and her grandmother and possibly her great-grandmother are very worried that something happened, but eventually Peter shows up when Daphne is 17, almost 18. And so he takes her to Neverland. And of course, like, you know, there's a big love story between him and the son of Captain Hook. But to be honest, and I liked the story, I did. I just thought that it was very poorly written. The one example that I have of this, which I read to Bella, and she was just like, what? What does that even mean? Yeah, it was on page 300, and it says, I'm unreasonably cross about it too, as though he were to know I was coming. If we were meant to be, he would is a lie I tell myself to keep me indignant and proud in a moment that would otherwise be terribly cold and humbling. That makes zero sense. Like, I have no clue what the author is trying to say there. Another issue I have with this is both relationships have their levels of abuse, okay? They are both cheating on her throughout the whole thing. Peter is like super narcissistic to the point where it's not even I know Peter Pan is supposed to be somewhat narcissistic, but this was like overkill. I didn't like any of the characters. I didn't like Daphne neither. I felt like she could have written a much stronger character who's just like, you know, screw both of you, I'm going back home. And instead, she just flounders, going back and forth between the two of them and letting them abuse her. And that kind of ticked me off. And I was just thinking, if it were my 17-year-old daughter, I would want to rip them both new ones. So anyway, that was that. This book I just finished last night. My oldest sister recommended it. It's called The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls, and it is a memoir, and I do like some memoirs, especially if they're about like messed up childhoods. And this one is about a messed up childhood where Jeanette grows up in a very poor family, and her father is an alcoholic and often blows all of their money on alcohol. And the mother's kind of flighty. She's an artist. And they basically are constantly moving these kids around. The kids live dirt poor. Eventually they end up in Appalachia. I have this obsession with Appalachia. So generally if something is from there, I'm going to want to read it or watch it. But they end up in Appalachia, and boy, the craziness these parents instill on the children is just beyond words, period.
Can you do
I did do that. I did. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Anyway, it's just, I thought that I was doing a review on Amazon or something. I don't know what I was thinking.
That is staying in the video.
Oh, this is going to be like the Teresa is the dumbest person ever video. Anyway, so this is super good. I read this in a day. Like, I could not put it down yesterday. I guess there's a movie which I want to watch maybe today. But this was just, it was like sad in parts, of course, like seeing these kids suffer. But parts of it were really funny. There was one really funny part where these gypsies who live down the road steal the one kid's pogo stick. And some old lady is jumping on the pogo stick. So the mother demands the pogo stick back for her son, and the gypsies won't let her have it. And when they wake up, they find a chicken with its throat slit on their porch. I guess it's a curse. And the mother got really ticked off. She was not afraid at all. And she ends up getting a ham bone and running down to the gypsy village and screaming at them that she was going to curse them. And just the way it was told made me laugh. There's so much about like siblings in here. Like, as somebody who grew up with a lot of siblings, you know, I really could identify with a lot of that. And with some of the craziness, like the dad's get-rich-quick schemes, like I could identify with a lot of that too. You know, my dad was not an alcoholic, but he was a get-rich-quick type of guy. But it was a really, really good book. If you like memoirs, this was an excellent memoir. Okay, I read this book called Come Closer by Sarah Grand. This is super short. It took me like less than a day to read. Yeah, you won't want to be identified with this one. My daughter Sarah's very excited because the author's name is Sarah. But this is about a woman who's married, and she's pretty much like happily married, but then she starts doing bizarre things, and she starts like doing things like stealing, and she starts like treating her husband badly, and you don't know what's going on. She thinks she's demon possessed. But, you know, she could be crazy. But I know that sounds super scary, and I don't like demon possession stuff at all, and I did not know that that's what it was when I picked it up. But I ended up thinking it was very funny, because there's just like, I don't know if it was meant to be funny. I think maybe that it was, but there was a lot of stuff like, she takes a quiz in a magazine about, are you demon possessed? And every time she takes the quiz, she gets a higher and higher score. And it was just cracking me up that there is a quiz in a magazine, are you demon possessed? And she's like taking this quiz. Like, some of it was super funny. I didn't find it chilling. I didn't find it scary. But I was really entertained by it. And I really actually liked it. Yeah, and it was super fast. Super easy to read. And then the last book I read was The 9 Lives of Rose Napolitano by Donna Freitas. I almost DNF'd it. In fact, you could ask Bella. I tried to DNF it several times, but my guilt complex kept kicking in, and I felt like I had to finish it. So I did end up finishing it. I liked the idea of it. You have a woman whose name is Rose, obviously, and she is happily married, but her husband decides that he wants a child. And throughout her whole life, she's always said, I never want babies. And when they were dating, she told him, I never want to have a baby. And he said, no, I don't want kids neither. But then all of a sudden, he decides that he wants a baby. And so this is like 9 different scenarios of how that could have played out. And first of all, it's borderline time travel. Like, I know it's not time travel, but that's what the feeling was time travel, and I don't like time travel. It confuses me. And this, with all the different endings, confused me, and all the different stories. I will say that I could have followed it better if there was less stories, but the fact that there was 9 meant that I could not keep following. It's probably just me. I have a hard time following a little bit more complications. But anyway, I liked the story itself. I didn't like Rose. I thought she was super shallow. I know she didn't want to have a baby, but then in some of the scenarios, she agrees to have a baby, but she resents the husband for it. And it was just like, come on, lady. Like, how can you treat people that way? Then don't ever agree to have the baby. I don't know. I know that was the point of it. Like, well, what happens if she does have the baby with him? Or what happens if she has a baby and all of a sudden he's not really involved? Or what happens if she refuses to have the baby? And so it goes through all these scenarios. Again, I didn't like her, and I didn't like the way that she treated the people around her. I didn't like the way she treated her mother. The thing that got me towards the end, that really got me connected, was the scenes with her mother, because the mother ends up being sick, and as a person whose mother passed away, I was able to identify a lot with that part of the story. But it was not my favorite read. I did make it through the end. I did like the author's writing style, and I liked the idea of the story, but I didn't like the 9 lives, and I didn't like Rose as a character. So those are the books that I finished, or DNF'd. And I don't know, Bella needs to sit up so she could turn off the video. Not with your toes. No, Bella, turn it off. No, not with your